I just want to name that, we are on sacred land. This land is beautiful and sacred, and I'm a visitor here. I'm from the United States. So I want to just kind of name that, and I also just heard news about Dakota Access Pipeline.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just amazing, right? Jasmine, for those of you that don't know, she hosts a beautiful dance circle on Sundays, and she did a water prayer this morning for Dakota, and had a woman speak that had spent time there. And so, just what a blessing, and what a beautiful, so let's just hope that stays.
The Army Corps of Engineers refused to give a permit.
So that to me is like that ceremony and protocol right there, that like something is changing, and I think that's what brought the three of us together with our writings, is this kind of appreciation for place and home, ancestral lineage, and how that can actually be part of the change, how that can actually affect what's happening in the world in a good way. What could possibly be an adequate response to the global crisis upon us? What mind or heart even could fathom an answer to the dilemma of human and animal extinction of our age? The conversation is upon us and has been. Spiritual masters of all ages have pondered this question, the quandary of humans living in balance with the natural world. When I think of a larger response to something global, I personalize it and liken it to a crisis in my own life. And when things in my life seem overwhelming or out of hand, I turn in and I return back home. I think this is what many of us are coming to realize in this global predicament. This is why we are turning to indigenous cultures, because they live and always have stayed close to home, to their place of origin. This is not an option for many of us of mixed races and cultures whose parents are refugees from various countries. But home can become the place where you settle, where you decide, this is the place I will grow myself and my family. I will stay here, and I will call this place my home. Humans from our mammalian origins have a natural propensity to safeguard our home, especially if we have a family that we're caring for.
It is the path of finding a hard yet possible future by making the hardest choices now. It is a hard and bitter path because we have been so utterly convinced that it is the wrong one, the one to leave behind, the one to eradicate and transform and evolve from. And we have grown so utterly dependent on our short-lived alternative, so beguiling with its comfort and ease and access, so intoxicating with its riches transferred to us from the other side, the invisible earth, the silent victims, the dispossessed. Of course, we don't want to slide back to the Stone Age. We will go kicking and screaming backwards, or kicking and screaming forwards, sacrificing our comfort for others' lives and livelihoods. But go we will to the unpromised land, the land finally free of unsustainable promises. Today or tomorrow, one way or another, by our action or inaction, we will go out of our false and manufactured Eden into the wilderness. We will find our way home.
I awaken to the steady bass note of the water falling below my home. Rains have engorged these rivers to overflow, and in their pregnant beds they run resplendently to the sea. I am a witness to their course, as are the many birds that alight on the branches outside my window, coloring the sky with their song. The vastness of the Pacific lays herself before me and receives these rushing waters of her daughters with ease. This is the way of things. Ho'olava Valley, one of the many ahupua'a on this Hawaiian island of Maui. Beautiful things don't ask for attention. And if you stay in a place long enough, she will reveal herself to you.
Through the canopy of green, into the dark interior of forest, I walk this path to send my spirit on its journey home.
I have traversed this glorious island today, from the valleys of the North Shore where the waters run fervently to sea, to a peak on the west side, Kukuipuka, the sacred Heiau, light portal, where souls enter and leave this world. And now on the south side, nestled in a private cove, soft waters caressing the shore, facing the islands of Ko'olava and Molokini. Infinitely opulent and generous with her gifts, Hawaii once nourished hundreds of thousands who have found balance with her rhythms. She reminds me that we are everything, life-giving and taking, wild and calm, passionate, peaceful, stormy and sweet. The diversity of her climates mirrors my own: arid deserts, surging seas, snow-capping jagged peaks, cloudy days, unexpected showers, and sun-swept rainbows. She too emerged from fetal waters, conceived in passion's fire, deep in the womb of the earth and birthed by breaking water. She took form within the vastness of blue Pacific, a respite for ocean voyagers, migrating birds, and mating whales. But these are not the reasons for my devotion. Love has no reason.
The easiest path is chosen quickly, without thought. The true footing gains itself. Watchfully the sky waves on. I dream some, forgetting yester pebbles, aware of not the stream aware of not me. Awaiting sun of tomorrow is too long for now. So we, I, you say, okay, let's keep on.
Yes. Got it. Sorry. This is not a large response, not a global response. This is one simple human's response to why. Why do I care? Why should anyone care? And what is there to care about? I've asked myself these questions, and now I ask you. Where is your place? What is your relationship to place? Where do you call home, and why?
Fearless in your short 4-year-old legs, your footsteps clap against asphalt and your knees nearly buckle, racing down the 40-degree lane. I too ran down this steep hill, freed from the school day and the sterile walls. And later, I too climbed even higher, further up the now vanished woods to the high school on the crest of the hill. That was the first high school to be built higher than any church in the hills, signaling a change in the town and in the future of our lives. I brought you from urban Canada to the village of my childhood to experience a taste of something that is dying. Of course, I have not told you this. It would sound dreadful and ominous. It has only been a few days since I started picking you up from school on foot, and you already look forward to the routine. First, we play in the schoolyard, chasing each other around the swings or racing down the slide. Sometimes, you kick a ball around with your cousins who still do not understand you when you speak to them in English. When they tell the teacher as they race through the tall school gate that they are winning, you reply, "We all win." This is a culture where everything is still about winning and losing. Happiness depends on who is first and who is last. You are a brave child jumping onto the high wire between cultures and languages and games and fears that are new to you. Rougher boys raised on a diet of TV cartoons filled with killings or fistfuls of violence, shouted and surrounded you when you arrived as a new exotic animal that attracts mobs of zoo-goers. Soon, older boys will start pushing you to the ground and hitting you. And you will not tell me. Your cousins will. After I'll run down the hill that gives me vertigo staring down to its bottom, running down a lane where nobody wins, but we have fun. A lane that in my childhood was a trail among the pines and oaks and would turn into a spontaneous brook during the many winter days of rain. We turn right and follow the trail beside a section of the old irrigation channel that is 4 feet deep. The trail is narrow and the grass overgrown. There is a sense of adventure the instant our feet leave the asphalt and touch the grass that never dries out in winter. Your eyes widen when I tell you that in my childhood I fell in a few times. Your grin seems to tell me you would not mind this adventure to turn wet today. You like risk and a change of the ordinary. As birds shuttle music to the fields, we bring loud giggles, screeches, the stories, and the leaps of those who turn the mundane into the miraculous. The women weeding in the field or the men pruning the vineyards stop and they want to talk to us. The sight of children walking home from school is absent now. Those in the fields already know everything about us because news of our family of 4 staying in town has traveled faster than rumor. The rare farmers who remain here look forward to us enlivening their every day now. The hills and the lanes without the children are as quiet as birds without feathers on a butcher's window.
It's been a long, cold winter and a long, cold, rainy spring. Now, near the end of May, the warm, sunny weather has finally arrived. There's much catching up to do in the garden, the orchard, and the hearth. While my days now will be filled with managing my little corner of nature, there is more yet to be done under the sun, but this in the shelter of wild trees. I am struck this morning as I walk in the sun-salved forest with a sense of homecoming. I was raised in such a forest. Oh, not me personally, and not exactly this type of forest, but over the long term of millions of years of evolution, humans developed in such an environment. Warm, shady, filled with other living things, and a sense of presence. Them in me and me in them, all part of a living fabric. The whole brain and body there, here, is awake, aware, alert to the presence of all life. Today, we call this unity an ecosystem. All seems possible now as I walk gently, quietly here under shade as tranquil as a cathedral. It even seems plausible when it's warm and dry and comfortable as this to make a living in a harmonious manner here with these other living things. This is a northern mixed forest, predominantly fir and pine, cedar and hemlock, vine maple and birch. There are, on this outing, no deer to be seen. Maybe finally they have taken their climatic cue to move up to the high country. Small animals are few, the odd squirrel, the sound of birds. Inevitably some ants, and no mosquitoes yet. The plant cover on the forest floor is behind schedule, with the bracken and thimbleberries not really opened up yet to spread thickly everywhere as they will after a spell of hot weather. There is not, in other words, a lot to eat in this forest. Still, I have a positive feeling about the prospect of spending the time here to seek out food or to prepare shelter if needed. I'm not going to freeze to death at night, and with a little more practice in snares and tracking, cordage and firekeeping, I think it could be done. A light breeze ripples the treetops. I reflect further that to really do the job right, the job of primary production and survival, would take a full-time commitment in cooperation with others at the same task over the course of the good growing weather. The native tribes of the BC interior possessed the necessary skills and worked like mad in the summer to put away forest foods for the long winter. And it worked. They were successful in making a living from their natural homeland. I don't plan to stay, of course, to do all that, but will continue down the trail toward my house and computer to write about it instead. Am I just another intellectual cop-out in a human world, doing head work, abstract work for a living? How can I claim to be truly at home here? From the perspective of the forest, or its indigenous inhabitants, no doubt I'm just a tourist, passing through. Or worse, a colonizer, here only to extract value on my terms. That's a fair enough critique. Given such limitations, I still find a valid sense of rootedness here, a connection that is deeper than culture or level of technology. I come home by noticing, by appreciating, by paying homage to that thrill in the heart that comes from being here, under the canopy of branches, standing on living soil, amid the stirrings of fellow life in the ancient homeland. Even if just for a period of years, or months, or one day, or during one morning walk down a forest trail, I can share in a more universal human homecoming, the warmth of recognizing the ancestral house and family, of joyfully stretching limbs and lungs in that soothing, familiar element. The high drone of a plane enters without knocking. My reverie is broken, and I lope down the trail toward home, leaving the forest behind. I have words that must be written there, and seeds to plant in the garden, and the orchard to water.
We leave the irrigation canal, and after a few turns on crossroads of paved lanes, we stop at one of the many ditches carrying water to varied fields. We gather ribwort plantain leaves, wild daisies surviving in the odd shoulders of the fields, tangerines falling in hordes from the unharvested trees, and make them into racing boats. Our voices, quick breath and occasional pokes, coach their floating bodies down the stream, emptying into the communal washing place that no longer seems to have anyone slapping clothes on its corrugated washing stone. Less chilblained hands in the neighborhood as a result. Sometimes the ribwort leaves entangle with the moss lining the stream in the way I too entangled with the past, remembering the daily boat races of my own childhood. We stop at your grandparents for a taste and a late afternoon snack on the way to our apartment. We bring them the chirping aliveness of being still in love with everything, wafting light upon the dark kitchen with walls 3 centuries thick. My parents sit watching TV for most of the day. They wait for the daily news of the newly dead. In truth, they wait for the news of their own death, which will not be televised. Your joy brings them a gust of wind into their slack sails. Without knowing it, you are already the highlight of their lives. They do not want you to leave this town, this country, ever again. The agreed silence highlights what we all know. We shall return back to Canada in a few months. After you've kissed and hugged your grandparents, we walk to the yard and pick oranges from the tree for your daily squeezed juice. You always collect 3 times more oranges than are really necessary. You like twisting them in countless rotations until the stems let them go. We bring the oranges to our nostrils and relish the pungent citrus. 3 bags of glowing sun planets perfuming the air. Inside the house, we bite into wood-fired baked buns and slices from wheels of cheese, followed by yogurt, before we cross the lane to visit Di Fernanda and Di Zé on their farm, where we will feed the goats our orange peels. For the sheep and the chickens, we'll divert collards from the field, a treat to the incarcerated. We climb onto the tractor, across the field. In the far distance, your Uncle Zé hears your canto as a new bird in the fields and calls out, "Hi, Koa, back from school?" He stops tying the vineyard shoots to the trellis with osier twigs and walks across the field to talk to us. My Aunt Fernanda joins us from her work inside the house, offering roasted chestnuts still sweating into the blue winter sky. This is the place where your mere existence, Koa, is an event worth stopping for. This is a country where the heart reigns, not schedules, not efficiency, not productivity. This is a land of gray-haired farmers where to be a child is still the most important occupation in the world and worthy of our attention. It is the same quality of attention they offer the corn seedling in the field, taking care not to step on it. Soon, they have joined us playing with the dogs still chained to yet to die insensibilities. The sun slides down the sky faster than we wished, and you help me harvest collards from the field for our brewing soup, which we'll eat with double gusto later.
What is the significance of place? This is the question living passionately within me at the moment. Throughout my many years of traveling and studying, being with people from different places, what has struck me most is how Indigenous people from everywhere speak of their connection to place. When they introduce themselves, their names are connected to their home, the name of their place, the mountain and the river from which they and their family have come. All of their oral traditions are passed down with reverence, knowledge that speaks of where to find clean water, where to grow certain kinds of food, where to gather, when to harvest, and what to hunt, where, and at what time of year. Their history, as their survival, is etched in the windswept lines of the landscape of their place of origin. Their tribal land is an ancestor. The bones become stones and our ancestors, the ground beneath our feet. They are, we are, related to the land, and to move them or herd them away is the equivalent of ripping a suckling child away from its mother. Land holds memories, and land holds these wounds. The wounds of separation, the wounds of slavery, war wounds, and colonial missionary wounding. And today, the wounding of pesticides and corporate greed digs into the earth and is literally bleeding her, as are the Gulf spills and tar sands seeping wounds. Yet, the land also holds medicine. The medicine is in the wound. Each place contains its own history, hearkening back from the trajectory that began as the earth was forming billions of years ago. Ancestral stories of plant and animal evolution, human migration, and tribal settling. Histories steeped in stories, and power steeped in place.
You may never remember these winter months, these hills and their eye-flinching green. And instead remember that I took you away from your friends, your school in Victoria, to experience something that was foreign to you and dying to me. I brought you to touch the land of your roots, to feel the blood that is moving across a landscape of people who have inhabited these hills and fields. I brought you to marvel at the pigeon-filled skies and the irrigation channels flowing onwards for centuries. People here know who you are because they know the web of our family roots in this valley across time and have forgiven my absence for 30 years. This includes the street sweeper enlivened by your presence, released from her tedium on seeing us walk from school and looking forward to crossing our paths, even if she does not understand your excited English tumbling out of your mouth. She gets your meaning from your bright hazel eye, the dimples in your smile, the gesticulating hands. The love you experience comes from everyone who stops to talk to you and acknowledges you are special for just being a child in love with the hills and with the snails feasting on oranges. This love is as old as the oak trees in the last grove we pass after school, the only grove of trees remaining on this hill. I tell you of the time I was stuck up the tree, not knowing how to climb back down. I had climbed too high in my quest for a clear view above the hills, blocking the flight of my own dreams. You stop, staring off at the ancient limbs gnarled at the arthritic bones of the slow-moving woman you just greeted, leaning on a staff. You stare at the tree, you stare at me, and you say nothing. I forget about it. Days later, you share my tree story with your 1-year-old sister and your mama when they join us walking from school. These are seeds of memory that you may never access in your own history. Your mother and I will carry this garland of memories to our graves. Although this is a history your parents and grandparents, aunts and cousins will carry in the family lore and for you to hear later, if asked, if willing. This is a time when you do not yet fully comprehend the fortune of seeing grandparents alive and eager to receive your kisses, your embraces, in a country you may never live in again. During these 5 months, we'll accomplish the work of angels.
Walking through the woods to the post office, intent as usual on my own purposes and bodily exercise, I happened to notice several old moss-covered stumps. I stopped feeling something of importance in these old stumps. I pass so often, but notice so seldom. What is it? What can I say for them, or about them? What do I even care? They don't give a hoot for me. And yet, we live side by side. It strikes me that I haven't paid them enough attention. They are like neglected children whom I've fathered and forgotten, or parents left behind to die, though they've sheltered me with love and money and wisdom. Or maybe it's I who have been neglected by them. But they cannot move or reach out or be active in any physical or conscious way, so it is unfair to expect of them what I can expect of myself, to take notice. I walk on to the mail, getting my exercise. And now, having noticed, having opened myself to that extent, I can't get rid of the things. Old stumps, moss-covered. They stand soft yet firm in my consciousness, like breasts of a familiar lover. What do I do with them now? give them attention and love and care. Who said that? Still I ask for more, that those trees forgive me, or my brother, or neighbor, or whoever cut them down, probably a man by all the odds. Can this be asked and given? Forgiveness from the forest? Doesn't such a pathetic fallacy spoil the rational basis of argument? What's the argument? Somebody cut them down. Young ones grow up around the stumps, diffusing the pain, healing the vision until the old wounds are practically unnoticeable. This is good, instructive as to what works for humans too. Would it be better not to have cut them at all? It may as well be asked. I probe the lessons of history, economics, ethics. Somebody likely made good use of that wood. I myself have turned the same trick on a number of specimens, leaving stumps, soon moss-covered, in the forest to be noticed or not, as I or another two-footed one passes. I own my guilt in the matter. I have cut down trees to make my shelter. This just cause redeems the guilt, or calls it something else. Having cut them, I owe homage to that fact by noticing now as I walk, and then reflecting, how many? The newer, big, live ones, are they next on someone's list? Undoubtedly, and the younger ones to come. The real question, allowing cutters to come, the same privilege I took, is how many more, for how long? Soon we won't be able to ignore them. We'll have to stop, noticing so many new stumps. In their growing numbers, they will cry out to be noticed. We will have to wonder then, as I have to now, having once noticed, where this vision is headed. Because a present vision noticed is a past wound acknowledged, is a future laid bare. Do we want that future? Humans multiplying endlessly cutting? Somewhere there is an end to it. The end comes when we notice, when the old stump is our lover, when we give our one or two children attention and love and care, and say to all those who ask, no more.
On our route from your school this afternoon, we passed by the oak grove where 6 people wearing a mixture of suits and hard hats stand with maps in hand and sighting instruments pointing toward the main road 100 meters away. That will be a new subdivision. What are they doing, Papa? I think they are discussing linking the road on the other side of the woods to the one we just left behind. These trees live here, you say loudly and in disbelief. The men look our way before resuming their measures. I nod in agreement. Your pained expression makes my heart stop. The trees will be run over. I do not find the words to explain that people make terrible mistakes, not realizing in the moment the harm they caused. I cannot find the words to tell you, yet they can do what they want to do to any tree in this valley, and they will do it just that. It will be your first big loss in this country, a continuation of losses I have experienced in this landscape. Cumulative biosphere losses, as the black and white picture I saw in grandmother's photo album yesterday, showing no single construction from your grandparents' house to the school I attended, the same school you are attending. We now can count more than 40 houses on our path. Several of those empty from immigrants that decided never to return. A few unfinished. Several vacant from the last elderly occupants gone, and the old skeleton of the houses left to collapse. What can I say? I too ran over my roots. We stand listening to the ravens call, bicker and chase each other among the oaks. You lean your head on my hip and bite your lip. The ravens will lose their home too, won't they? I squeeze your hand. In the distance, several terraces below, a little to the east, the small brown, white, black dots of T. Fernandez goats bleat in their pasture. They recognize your voice carried in the wind. Let's go and feed the goats, I suggest. The road we follow will make a wide detour to reach the farm. We don't mind the extra time to follow the contour of the land, around the fields, along the irrigation channel. We will spend more time together because of it. That is the reason we walked. We do not mind longer roads between points. There is much to learn every day in lateral approaches to our destination.
My home is nestled in a valley on the north shore of Maui. I am incredibly fortunate to awaken to the sound of the river rushing and the birds songing in the trees. I look out and I see the ocean, and beyond that, nothing. This moku, or district, is called Hamakualoa, which means the long back of the island. The rivers that border this Ahupua'a are Ho'olava, which means complete, and Haumana, which is student or apprentice. They have been renamed things like Twin Falls, King, Queen, and Princess Pools, and Flat Rock by the many people that have come after, indicating those people's stories. But the value in looking back to the original name is to familiarize ourselves with the history of the place we inhabit. The names teach us what the gifts or medicine of a particular place holds. You may learn what kind of animals or plants live in a valley, what the rainfall or river flow is, or even what battles and bloodshed took place. Tidal indications along coastlines are found in place names, as can be the hereditary families of origin of a particular place. A place name is a place keeper. Each name means something. If you want to know a person or place, the first step is to learn the meaning of the name.
Walking on the frozen flats at the head of the lake, this is Kootenai Lake, by the way. I notice my tracks go straight. When I decide to change direction, the new direction is also straight. I walk a large zigzag pattern. Coming into the sparse brush, I continue walking straight until I notice deer tracks, meandering with gentle curves through the brush. The undergrowth is sparse enough that a straight path would still be convenient. Yet, following the deer's tracks, there is a different consciousness at work. This meandering course of gentle curves, I discover, can only be made step by step, moment by moment, with decisions always tentative, subject to influence by the next whiff of air, the next attractive bud, the next whim of inspiration, or pure serendipity. Walking, this too is a primitive skill.
I live on the top of a ridge above Ho'olava River. Ho'olava means to apportion sufficiently. The name tells me that I live in an abundant place. I live along a river that tells the story of the plenitude of this land. And even today there are farms back to back on this road and the adjoining roads, enough rain and rivers to nourish and maintain a lot of food and people. The crawdaddies still inhabit the rivers, as do other tiny fish, and the pahole fern still grows in the wetlands. And yet, where are the Hawaiian families that used to live from this abundance? How was their land acquired, and where have they been displaced? Uncle Jackie still holds the reins, literally, in this valley, and he comes on his horse still to meet the neighbors, share stories and seeds. And I know he's watching the building of homes, the plants growing and not, and how things are changing and not. We're a funny bunch that live out here. The roads are dirt and we like them that way. There are no electrical lines. Instead, solar and wind provide us power, while rain catchment roofs and tanks our water. It is a choice to live like this. Convenience is not the priority. Solitude, nature, the sounds of the natural world, growing food, and simple living are the values that we share.
Now we pause the programs and looping routines long enough to wonder what next. Which path of all those possible may be more advantageous than the ones we've been on, individually and collectively, up to this point? We stand on a single point of time, with blankness all around. Our path appears before us, steps by steps, continuing, rhythmic echo of the past. These steps, too, lead into darkness, but the motion of our past movement impels us blindly forward. If we were to stop and look around, we might envision creating footsteps by our own simple walking and paths as yet unexplored. There is a frontier yet to be tasted, not on any continent, but that of the human spirit. And here too we may suppose it's all been done. Yet the next moment is unprecedented. The conditions changed. The dynamics of the whole have come into play as never before, and will continue to create novel contexts by which to judge each next move. This game develops new and evolving rules all the time. New and evolving rules and twists of rules all the time. Random factors are at work, giving us continual opportunities to change our expectations.
That completes part one. Thank you for your attention.
Well, I'm glad most of you decided to stay for our second part. And somebody just pointed out to me that we never actually introduced ourselves individually. So, I mean, we know each other mostly, but not only. So I'll just start and say I'm Noah Cray, and I probably also should have said that the writings that I'm reading from come from my time in the Kootenays, where I lived for 20 years before Victoria. And they come mainly from one of my books over there called My Country. So that's me.
My name is Paulo de Costa, and there's 4 other family names in the name that I can never use in Canada because there's not even enough space in documentation. Paulo Alexandre Soares Alves da Costa, and it tells you all the lineage from the mother's side and the father's side, so that even culturally that might give you a hint why I write these things. After a while, I experienced the importance of that because I was also born in Angola, West Africa, while my parents were away for a few years. I've lived in England, Australia, in different parts of Canada, so I'm a modern gypsy, as many of us are. And now that I have 2 very young children, I've started to realize the impact that has on them and on me and on the extended family by being separated. And some of the invisible injuries or invisible sense of identity that can create in our well-being and in our communities. So this is an essay that's part of a series of excerpts in a book I'm writing, which is a sequence as well from the book on identity and sense of place as well that's beyond bullfights and ice hockey. Wherever I am, I don't seem to fall into the loving practices of the culture. Thanks.
My name is Heidi Earhart, and I'm visiting from Maui, Hawaii. And this collection is called A Larger Response Ability. And it was born from, I do a lot of work with children, and I mentor youth. And I took a group of young Hawaiian leaders to Paris for the climate change conference last year. Actually, a year ago today. And it was devastating and inspiring at the same time, really extreme. And part of the agreement was, our community fundraised for us to go, and we would come back and give something back to our community in Maui. So we had an event, and we all shared our stories. And one of the young women, Kailea, who I'm very close with, I've mentored her for many years, her give back was a class called Earth is Ohana, Ohana's family, Earth is our family. So I took this 8-week course that she offered, and this was my final project with the slideshow, actually. And that's enough.
There have been many times when I've wondered whether letting you taste the dying world was a price too dear to pay. The times you clung to me with the same clenched teeth of those drowning in fear, as you begged me to stay in school with you in the first few days. I did just that, arriving earlier so we could become accustomed to a new setting and heated rooms, the shouts of teachers herding the swarm of children, now interested in the exotic blonde boy who spoke a different language. It was overwhelming for you and for us and all the family. There had been a time you experienced night terrors in Canada. We were concerned, but we did not feel guilty. These days, when you scream in your sleep, my breath stops. You are free falling without your Canadian friends, without a language to speak and to be understood, with cars driving too fast and not stopping on crosswalks. You are falling beside us, hand in hand, in order to land on the strongest web of roots you will likely ever encounter in your life. You are now for the first time living amid your extended family of Portugal. In Canada, you do not have any grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, and your mother's branch of the family has been pruned forever. There will be no more fruit. When your mother and I die, your baby giggles and your tantrums will die with us. Mm-hmm. The formative details of the day you first touched sand and entered fearlessly into the ocean waves will die with us. And so will all the yet to tell stories of your beginnings. Some of us spend our adult lives searching for the echoes of that infancy, which rhymes with intimacy. And these echoes set many of the directions of our lives. Most never fully discover those artifacts of memory. When we do unearth an echo, a smell, a blurred image, we vacillate. Often we wonder whether those memories are more art than facts. We attempt to reconstruct that edifice of childhood, the digging of our foundation. We woke up too late, after our parents had gone and left no stories to illuminate the dusty, one-dimensional picture albums. We woke up to our memories as late as we now realize we have woken up to our present lives. Everything has passed without meaning. Such key stories, such key memories open the door to our neuroses and our passions. They will release us. We need to learn where to find the key to those stories.
There's a strange thing for a woman who was born and raised in one of the largest cities in the world, Los Angeles, to reflect upon my life as it stands now. And I always longed for this, even as a child. I knew there was a natural order and intelligence, and I couldn't find it in the city or in the suburbs in which I grew up. I was 20 years old before I picked fruit growing on a tree. I intuitively knew the importance of that. And even though I don't call myself a farmer, I do grow food, and most especially perennial crops that continue to produce even when I'm not around to care for them. Food forests. I was greatly inspired by a group out of the Bay Area of California called guerrilla gardeners. They dress in white, sneak out at night, and plant gardens in vacant lots and along curbsides in the city. They leave a sign saying, "Water me, I'm a garden and I will give you food." This is a revolution in the way we need. Seed bombs. To think of the future and to do what it takes to ensure that there is food for our children and grandchildren, healthy food, naturally biodiverse food, free from chemicals and not genetically engineered. And so I began. I would collect seeds and saplings, starts and sprouts. I would gather friends with the same, and with our backpacks full of hundreds of different kinds of plants, natives and edibles, we would set out and plant food on state land, wild land, on any land we could find that receives enough rain. This is not a new idea. Native people around the world have been cultivating food by encouraging and supporting wild edibles. And many of my local and Hawaiian friends have been doing the same guerrilla-type gardening with a plan to create GPS mapping of all of the renegade food forests planted on island. Save seeds, plant them, and share. Growing food is an act of revolution, revolution, serving our future by planting with love today.
The truth is, none of these farmers and hills, these cornfields and old people, was dying for you, my son. Not the grandparents, not the farming ways of life, the oaks, or the empty fields now only touched by the vanishing white-haired people stooped under the weight of earlier memories. The silent stenophilia flowers never died or disappeared unless we knew they had once existed. We do not mourn what we never experienced. I do not know if the Portuguese language, which you fully understand and which you now begin to speak in a few sentences, will take root and bloom, or if it will become a distant, indiscernible echo in your memory. What I know is that many new windows in the world opened for you just as they were closing with the last breaths of a generation and of a time. I try not to have hopes, yet I do. This time we are spending on these hills of my childhood is for you to savor and for the wings of circumstance and the steering of the heart to decide what will you do with it. If nothing more, I will take to my grave your smile as we stop every day to pick wild daisies from the edges of the cornfields, and you carry them to the open hands of your grandparents and uncles and aunts who have not received the spontaneity of flowers since they dated 5 decades earlier. You do not distinguish gender in your affections. So we walked with a pink umbrella and a whistle in the rain, an umbrella chosen by you at the bi-weekly outdoor market. Never once dissuaded when the gypsy woman in black attempted to convince you to take the blue. You never understood her distress. If nothing more, I'll take to my grave the memory of you asking me to touch the water running from the spring, cool and tickling your fingertips, as any universe should tickle those still feeling. If nothing else, I will take to my grave the memory of treading the same ground with you where the bones of our ancestors have treaded for centuries, attending the same school grounds I did, our faces recognized on the lanes by the elderly, holders of the living map of genes, still populating this valley and these hills.
September 2001. No TV, no internet, no email, and even the phone was out for a day, which was better in a way than unplugging it, because this time I just had to let go. Nature spoke. I didn't even hear the wind over the rain in the night, but in the morning trees were down everywhere. Needles and branches littered the dirt road through the forest I call home. The power lines stayed down for 3 days. It was no death scene of a distant city like those I had witnessed 2 weeks before, with the painful luxury of a front row seat, 3,000 miles and a way of life removed. The forest took its losses without complaint. Another Gulf War, longer and larger, rages in the rumors of front pages elsewhere. But today, instead of world news, I take a walk to the river. I write outside with cold fingers on a small notepad, while the silver morning grows over the mountains to the south. A single raven calls, answered by various rhythmed birds, then a humming silence. Last night, the boys did homework by candlelight, played acoustic guitars. The night before, Nintendo gave way to Kala. I relearned an old tune on the penny whistle, beat on a drum. Have I embraced this emptiness yet? These last few nights, there was more time for sleep, dreaming, love. Now, there is only time. Shouldn't it be this way? Nature spoke. I can no longer take power for granted.
So what does nature have to teach us? If there's one rule of balance that nature upholds, it is this: wherever there is a plant that can do you harm, its antidote can be found within 20 yards. So I ask, even as threats to plant and animal life escalate, as ecosystems are dying and water, air, and earth are being polluted at a rate unparalleled in history, what is the antidote found within reach? Where are we as humans, the mammalian creatures we are, born and raised on planet Earth, finding the natural balance? As the proverb says, the pendulum swings both ways. And I see evidence every day for that. Every apparent atrocity befalling our planet and people, there is an equal and positive reaction, also natural law, asserting its will to return to homeostasis. And while some may argue we are no match for the powers that be, I say what we have is the entire natural world working in our favor, in service to balance and life. Every animal, plant, mineral, ocean, stream, current, mountain, and volcano is bound to a natural law that will bring this earth back to homeostasis once again. And yes, I believe that law is also found within us, if we are listening.
mysticism is a primitive skill. Human consciousness is our window on divine consciousness, which we see manifest everywhere in the natural world. Nature is the substance that connects the inner and outer world in one organic unity. In an age when the frontiers are all breached and ecosystems are suffering irreversible devastation, contamination, extinctions, it becomes more important than ever to expand our awareness of the nature intact within us. Nature is not confined to forest and field, nor even to an infinite field of stars. Its power and immensity drive every detail of our own biological machinery. And while its spirit offers us a mirror of our most transparent selves, its inexhaustible body of forms inspires us to create our lives and works with just such exuberance and beauty. Outside my window, young hemlock trees drip with fresh March rain, beating the ends of their branches. Beyond the vacant pasture stands the forest wall, mute and uninviting, as the mist, mingled with smoke from my studio stovepipe, drifts between us. The insistent rain escorts the last of the winter snow on its way into the brown earth. A slight wind stirs the branches. I let go of words and remember to breathe.
These eyes of mine see the world through their own lens. They are tuned to beauty, drawn magnetically to light, and can only focus on what is directly in front of them. The macrocosm is a reflection of the microcosm, so I suppose I found my own balance. I see the little things. The way water droplets nest upon a blade of grass stirs something deeply within me. That perfect little globule, like a teardrop that has been caught and made immortal by the gentle care of a leaf or petal palm. That is nature's tenderness and efficiency. Each precious morning, the drops are held and conserved consciously by the intelligence of the natural world. The plant will slowly absorb that water, or an animal or quick-lighting bird will have a morning drink. Nothing is wasted, and light, water, and life come together cyclically to form great beauty and balance. Color, too, is a splendor. The brightness that speaks vibrant from the plant world has me lost within flower blossoms for hours. Spring fever, it speaks of our own unfurling, a celebration of something new being born. Spring evokes in all life that release or exaltation at emerging from the darkness of winter's slumber. We need all the cycles, and the stoic phase of winter suits me well for short cycles, which is why I'm drawn to the tropics, where year-round storms invite me inward, more often but for less time. Our colors find expression in spring. As we emerge from our own internal workings, we may don the shades and textures of hopes, dreams, intentions, and ultimately our true essence. Spring is a time to be seen, to allow oneself to be seen. And this is where I close. For we have survived and continue to see the effects of a long and metaphoric winter. But there is a hope of spring in this moment. As the light and the heat, lost songs of birds and rising waters awaken us from our proverbial slumber, we begin to see the new growth that is happening as people mobilize, communities form, and we reach for one another in a world we know is possible. Tribal peoples from around the world that have never participated in international conversations are pilgrimaging to global gatherings to stake a claim and speak as a voice of the earth. Children and youth are also stepping forward and claiming their right for a future. We are the ones we've been waiting for. It is up to us, each in our own way, with our unique gifts, to listen deeply, to listen to the call of nature that is in our bones and blood, and to find out how we may contribute to balance in our own way, in a small way, in our own communities, and close to home.
So at one point, Megan mentioned something about names and how if you want to get to know something about a place, you can start with the name. Well, you might get to know something about me by knowing that my name is Fabrizio Alberico. Fabrizio means craftsman, and Alberico means tree. So I was born to craft things out of trees. And so this guitar is one of the things that I've crafted out of many different trees. That is kind of the theoretical, the philosophical me. There's the physical me, which is just like all of you, mostly water, and a bunch of minerals and other substances. They're primarily based on carbon. So they're carbon-based form. And then there is a certain amount of energy that animates what I'm able to do. And there's a consciousness which animates the energy, which gives me direction. Consciousness is not something that anybody has any solid hold of. Right? We don't know what consciousness is tied to. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know what it actually is all about. So the energy is something that we do know something about. It comes when I'm talking right now. I'm using my brain. My brain runs on glucose. So that's where do I get glucose from? Well, we've heard mentions of picking oranges off the tree, you're getting collard greens. And so anytime we eat, we basically convert sugar that comes from plants by combining it with oxygen that also comes from plants, of course. That happens at a cellular level. And so we take all that in, there's a little bit of combustion that happens, and the byproducts of that create some energy that we can continue to animate ourselves. And the byproducts that are waste are in the form of water and carbon dioxide. So when that carbon dioxide goes out, of course, plants absorb it. So I'm also a yoga teacher, so I'm very interested in boundaries and oneness and what exactly is me, what is other. And so, when I started to think about these things at a deeper level, it's not just philosophical, this whole hippie, like we are all one. It's actually true, because where do I end? If there is no plant in the corner, there is no me, because I have no oxygen and I can't breathe and I can't survive. So, thankfully, I'm not the only person who's thought about these things. There's a guy who's way smarter than me named Tyler Volk at New York University, who decided to figure out, so what happens? Yes, byproducts of our metabolism is carbon dioxide. So what happens to these things? The carbon atoms, right? How many of these carbon atoms do we get rid of every time we breathe, and where do they go? So he did some measuring, and it turns out that every time we breathe out 500 million trillion carbon atoms. That's a lot. So that's 5 followed by 20 zeros. That's individual atoms that used to be part of our cells, right? So he decided to figure out, well, where do these things go? That's a lot of carbon atoms. Where do they go? And turns out that anywhere you go on the planet, within the space of a year, all those carbon atoms will make their way around the world. Okay? So these are, again, little pieces of you and me and everybody else who's breathing, the animals, everything else. So he decided to figure out, well, where do I need to go on the planet? And if I go someplace on the planet, how many of these carbon atoms are going to be in the air around me? And so again, he did some measuring and some mathematics and figured out that it doesn't matter where you go on the planet. It can be Antarctica, it can be Africa, it can be right here in this room. Every meter sphere of air contains 50 carbon atoms from each one of your exhales over the last year.
Wow.
Well, that's in meter around 50 carbon atoms from each exhale. We breathe 20,000 times a day. Okay, so that's a lot of carbon atoms. And so what happens to those carbon atoms? Well, they get absorbed by trees, And it's this beautiful symbiotic relationship that we have with trees, right? And so our waste is their nutrition. So they take carbon dioxide and they take sunlight and they take water and they create glucose, which is stored as starch. So anyways, they're carbon-based life forms too, because glucose breaks down into hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. So eventually the trees use this energy and they take this carbon to create leaves and create oranges that we pick off of trees, collard greens that we eat, and the cycle continues. And it also creates, wood that we chop down for good purposes or not. I hope to think that this is a good purpose. So this tree here is a bunch of carbon atoms. And so you can't go anywhere on the planet without encountering carbon atoms of yours and everybody else that has ever lived. We're just temporary concentrations of carbon atoms. Every cell in your body is different today than it was a year ago, 97%. There's a few that stay in your bones a little bit longer, for 7 years, but generally we cycle ourselves every year. So there is no blade of grass anywhere on the planet that doesn't contain thousands of your carbon atoms. And by extension, the carbon atoms that used to be in Jesus and Buddha and Genghis Khan and Hitler and Mozart and Bach. So all those carbon atoms get stored up in trees or other places, like in oceans. So this tree that made up this guitar, well, I counted the growth rings on this, and somewhere this top, the wood that created this top would have been somewhere around 200 or 300 years old, maybe even older, maybe 400 years old. So these are just carbon atoms that used to be in Jesus, in Buddha, and Genghis Khan, and Gandhi, and Mozart, and Bach. And so if I were to play Bach on my guitar, I would literally be playing Bach on my guitar. So again, if I'm just a temporary concentration of carbon atoms animated by a certain energy and a consciousness that is a mystery, this too is a concentration of carbon atoms that's animated by my energy and my consciousness, and your consciousness, because we're in dialogue right now. And I'm about to play something for you. So it's pretty trippy, but it's real.
Love it. It's awesome.
It makes it very real for me. It's like this, the theoretical constructs of Buddhism and yoga of interconnectedness are pretty abstract until you actually sit down and think about it and see that it's actually happening as we speak with every single breath that we take. So, on that note, I'd like to start things off with this is going to turn into a sharing circle, so I'm hoping not going to be the final word here. Other people have things to say about the first. This is a song written by Scott Cook, great singer-songwriter from Edmonton originally. He's lived in Taiwan for a while, travels the world quite a bit. Comes through town once in a while for a folk club, so it's good to see Scott Cook come to town. He's one of the best performers, like an old-time kind of folk singer that comes around and tells you stories. And so all his songs tell a story, and this one is called Pass It Along. And it's one of my favorite songs, and I never took the time to learn it until Heidi asked me to contribute something today, so I decided to learn it for this purpose. Guitar came from the timber, from the body of a tree, through the workshop of a luthier. Now it's on loan to me, and it's good company after dinner, and it fits my hands just fine. But someday another singer with a pair of hands like mine will coax out songs much prettier, still hiding in its strings, and sing stronger, braver words than I could ever sing. Folks are gonna love it, this I'm almost sure, so I'll take good care of it, 'cause I'm borrowing it from her. Pass it along, pass it along. May lend me careful hands when we're gone. Carry it for a moment, Time won't loan it to you for long. You don't own it, pass it along. Well, this here is my country. Sometimes it's hard to recognize it, but I count myself lucky to have been born inside. And I'm grateful for the rights of who struggle hard to win, and you can be sure I'm gonna fight. They try to take them back again. Oh, and everywhere our teachers, though some fell along the way, the words they said still reach us, just like you're teaching me here today. And you may not speak it loud, but it's clear in what you do, and I hope to make you proud, 'cause I borrowed it from you. Pass it along, pass it along. May it land in careful hands when we're alone. Carry it for a moment, time won't loan it to you for long. You don't own it, pass it along. Seems these days we're in a hurry. Grab up all that's left to use, putting patents on discovery, making seeds that don't reproduce. If our vision is so narrow, seeing only bought and sold, will end up like the pharaohs, buried with their gold. We've all pushed this thing along, we've all been guided by our fear, but the river sings a song, we gotta be quieter to hear. It's in every child's face, new and hopeful as the stem. Best be gentle with this place, 'cause we're borrowing it from them. Pass it along, pass it along. May it land in careful hands when we're gone. Carry it for a moment, time won't loan it to you for long. You don't own it, pass it along. So this is a song that I wrote 2 years ago, and the lyrics are always changing a little bit, but not much. This is called Up to You. There's a bit of a catchy little chorus. If you catch on to it and you want to sing along, then you're welcome to. Four winds keep you standing, and the earth rise to meet your feet. Though the road ahead keeps winding, send your love down every street. 7 seas of salty waters, once as clean as earthy sky. Gifts we leave our sons and daughters, it's not the kind that we can buy. The way you walk and the road you choose, the way you talk and the words you use. Put out the fire, light the fuse. It's up to you. Win or lose. Five bones of Jesus for our sins,
can the world do you